Hi crafting friends, welcome to my channel. My name is Barbara Radzevicius, and in this channel mainly about quilting and knitting. They are my passions. I love quilting, I love quilt making, and I love making small knitted accessories, let's say. Really love the colors and the feel of fabrics and yarns. So a very yarny channel. If you like the content of my channel, please like and subscribe. It all helps to make my channel grow and more people to see the exciting things that are possible with handcrafting. So in this episode, we're going to look at mini quilts. In the 90s and early 2000s, I made a few mini quilts. And so I'm going to show them to you today and also show you how I hand quilt my minis. A mini quilt for me is a big quilt in miniature. So I love small pieces. I love scraps. My scraps are not what I call scraps, they're paints. And I love painting with all little bits of fabric. I collect lots of little bits of fabric. And I think we all have a bin where we have our fabrics stored, shall we say. If you've seen my craft room tour, you'll see I have a whole wall of little pieces. I've wallpapered the wall with little pieces. It's beautiful. So let's get started. This is my sample quilt. So this is exactly how I make a quilt. Put the binding on first and then I hand quilt. And I do big stitch quilting, even in the minis. And I think it just feels so beautiful. That's the back. So I love the texture and the patterns that you can get, especially with thicker cottons are my favorite. I like pearl cottons, number 12s. I have a nice little box of pearl cottons and I like to use them for minis and for my big quilts. I just love them. This is a quilt before it is put to work, before it has the binding on. I thought I would do some Japanese type quilting. I just wanted to see how it would look and if I could actually do it. So I usually put the binding on first, but this is a sample and I wanted to show the construction of how I do quilts. So I have 3 layers. This one has a black batting that Judith gave me. We thought we'd try a darker color batting. You can get many battings, but for a very thin quilt, a mini, I think a thin batting is perfect. I know some people use foundation and stabilizer type fabric in their minis. I don't. I actually didn't think they made them. And quilting is a new thing here in Australia. It's only been here for about 40 years, I would say, you know, as a comeback thing. I mean, we have had quilting since Dot, which is like 250 years, when people came from Ireland and England, Scotland, places like that, and they brought their crafts with them. But their quilts were not the same as American traditional quilts. They were more Suffolk puffs and English paper piecing, Victorian crazy quilts made out of all different fabrics, you know, leftover fabrics from garments and things like that. But this is how I construct a quilt. I have 3 layers. This is another sample of how I construct. the 3 layers, very thin batting. These hexagons, I do love hexagons, friends. So with hexagons, we measure the side to say what size it is. This is a 4-inch hexagon. Perfect for a mini quilt. And a nice size. But let's have a look at the others. I love log cabins. And I made this log cabin quilt mid-1990s. It's an 8.5-inch square. Each little square is 2.25 and the pieces are 1/2 inch. A nice selection of greens. This is an Irish chain, although I have called it, what did I call it? I did call it an Irish chain. That is amazing. I quilted the name into the border. I also quilted shamrocks in hearts. And these little pieces were sample pieces sent from a quilt shop as samples of their fabrics, and I just couldn't throw them out, so I made them into little quilts. I think they're beautiful. So small. It's the back. Big stitch quilting. I had a plastic template to go to make the quilting lines on this one. You could buy books of quilting patterns. Oh, so great. I also made some for the quilt show, and this one, I haven't got the date on it, but it's called Music in the Garden. It is a trip around the world, and it's also made from the little sample squares. Has big stitch quilting. It's quite a trip around the world. A sample of the fabrics that were around in the 1990s. It feels lovely. It's just a lovely little quilt, and to hang it, it has Velcros on the back, so it's a sticky one. I think it's just lovely. That's my trip around the world. And then I found hexagons. I'll have it up the right way. I'll measure it. It is a 6-inch hexagon. So the whole quilt is a 6-inch hexagon. Is that unreal? And I called it Chai, or Hey. 18. I love the fabrics in this. That blue was my all-time favorite. The construction of this was quite different from foundation paper piecing because I had never heard of foundation paper piecing. I often wondered how people got mariner's compasses so perfect, those points so perfect, and I'd never heard of foundation paper piecing. So all my minute pieces are English paper piece, and I think that is amazing, don't you? I mean, tinsy wincy triangles, and I grafted up myself. I like how it's sort of a tile pattern. This is one of my all-time favorite quilts, and it's a mini. Has a black back, and the label takes up the whole the whole fabric. And this is my template that I made for it with graph paper. So that was before foundation paper piecing. And then I found Margaret Rolfe. She's an Australian quilter and she designed a whole book on Australian patterns. This isn't a Japanese girl. Patchwork. So this is a patchwork quilt. It is 13.5 inches by 16. I did a lot of quilting on this one, and I used Japanese fabrics that I purchased at a quilt show market stall. I think I might have bought a bundle of the little blues, but they are so beautiful, and the little girls are so lovely. I think the fabric is beautiful too. And then the back is my label from that period. I screen printed this label. It's a medieval type theme label. And yeah, it's called Indigo Ladies, this one. Really love it. 1996. It was a good year. And then beavers. This one is a pattern. It was in a book, and it is also a Margaret Rolfe pattern. And the book is Go Wild with Quilts, 1993. She made this. Really love it. And I called mine Beaver Creek. I love the colours. I love the hand-dyed fabrics and the greens for the trees. And the little beaver is madly going to build his little house with a tree. I hand quilted around the edge with this one. And I hand quilted all of it, really. The back, you can see the quilting. I like to have a fair bit of quilting on my quilts. I just do. And sometimes I get a bit carried away with the hand quilting. And this is my last small quilt that I made. And it is bigger. So I'll just measure it first. It still is a mini, and it is 21 inches by 28 inches. So quite big for a mini. The pattern is Snowball. I'll go back a bit so you can see the whole quilt. I love greens. I love green fabrics, and I love making quilts with green. And the snowballs, this pattern is very easy to construct. I called mine Aquarius Rising in Virgo. That's me. And I made it February 94. So it's good that I wrote on the labels. A scrap quilt. These are scrap quilts. You can see I've used many little pieces of different colors. I hand quilted snowflakes in the center of the snow snowballs. And yeah, that is my little collection of minis that I've made. I love minis. This is made from linen sheets. I bought some linen sheets from Bed Threads. They make the most beautiful sheets. I bought green, but they send little samples of other colours that they have. I just couldn't throw them out. They are, well, they started out as 1-inch squares, but they got a bit smaller and I quilted it. This is one of my favourites too, a linen quilt. I have 2 UFOs. I'll show you them. I have 2 UFOs. This very pretty little one, it's 12 inches across the top by 16 in length. It's a scrappy quilt. I think the pattern might be called Windmills, not sure. It's a traditional pattern. And I think I just made it from a picture, this one, but I haven't finished it for some reason. The pieces, the fabric, are 1/2-inch squares made into triangles. That could be a reason. But this is as far as I got. I mean, some of it is quilted. You can see I have quilted, but I haven't put the binding on. This is before I put bindings on, before I finished. So you can see the 3 layers. And I'm just not sure why I haven't finished it, but it will probably stay a UFO. A beautiful UFO, but still the same. And then there is this one. This is the second one. So the edge has a log cabin type of border on it. And then the center is a printed piece of fabric. Might have been from a tea towel. I do like making quilt blocks from tea towels. There's a lot of loose threads. It is a lovely little block. It has books, cats. And I really love the fabric for the border. I'm not sure why I didn't finish this one. Some of it's quilted. Just needs well, the both of them just need binding on them really, and a bit more quilting. But there's UFOs and everything, isn't there? So that's my episode on my mini quilts. If you like this content, please like and subscribe. So welcome here, and thank you for joining me today, and I'll see you soon. Bye, crafting friends. This morning we went out to do some, well, actually I went to Spotlight to buy some fabric, but the fabric had all sold out that I wanted. It was a velvety type green for the couch. It was there last week, but this week it had gone. So I went to Kmart and bought a few items and lay-byed a few items for my son, some t-shirts and some pants, just useful things. He likes certain colors, so I got some t-shirts in the colors that he likes. And then we went to the fruit shop. So maybe you would like to see a tour of our local fruit shop. It is all in our, even though I live in the city, we have suburbs made like villages, And so this is our village fruit shop. It is beautiful. It has such a large range of beautiful fruit and veg, fresh, cheeses, breads, chocolates from all over the world, biscuits, things like that. And it's at the beach. So a lot of tourists in summer, I would imagine, visit the shop. And yeah, it's just lovely. So I think I'll include some of the footage of our trip to the supermarket also, as this is a slow living type of YouTube channel too. So not only do I have crafting, but I also include some life deciding things also, like going to the beach and buying fruit and veg. And yeah, I just think it's, if you like this type of other content, let me know. I think going to supermarkets in other countries and other cities is so exciting. You see all these different things. And fabric and wool is the same. You know, you go somewhere else and you see all these beautiful things that you don't see at home. So this is Sydney, Australia, and Bondi Beach. Why I went to Bondi Beach today, I went to have a look because I like the weather. But last week we had this big storm, do you remember? I went all week and the winds were so high and it blew half the beach up onto the promenade and everywhere, and it's still there, and they're reconstructing the beach today. And so I took some footage of that too, and that is very exciting. I think, how can the whole beach just migrate uphill? But it did. Went in all the shops and everything. And do you remember last episode, John took a small video for me too, because he was the only one going to go down to the beach. It just about blew him over, but he opened the car door to get out and half the beach blew into the car too. So there's still sand in the car. But yeah, I also like to include, you know, some life event type things. So thanks for tuning in today, friends, and I'll see you soon. Bye. Thank you for joining me today, friends. Looking at minis and my minis, and so fun, isn't it, to look at things that we've made and projects that are still to be made. But all the possibilities, you know, of small pieces, scraps. Some say scraps, we say treasures. Those small pieces of fabric that we just can't throw away, and some we turn into quilts, minis. So if you like this type of content, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. And I'm so glad to see you. I'll see you next time. Bye, friends. Last week, and look, half the beach is up here on the promenade and a very lot of the sand too. That's what's left out there on the beach. And there's a second beach. It was very windy. You can smell salt in the air. They're grading the sand back down. It's right up against the wall down there. Very windy. I love the smell of salt in the air. It's just beautiful. This is high summer, Bondi Beach, Australia. It's just beautiful. So lucky.